And with that music starts another episode of TJacks Unpacks. Welcome and thank you for listening. Today, I'm going to be unpacking Trump's first 100 days in office and 100 days they have been. Now, those of you who have been following me since the start, or at least recently with the podcast, you have seen I have not posted recently. That is because I did go on vacation for a week, but then when I came back, I actually wasn't feeling the best. And one of the things I'm committed on to doing for you guys and through this podcast is just making sure every episode I put out is well researched and done with the best possible quality. And I didn't feel like I could have done that in the state I was feeling, but now positively I am feeling great. So we're going to jump into the episode, and in terms of how I will be unpacking his first 100 days, we will look at immigration, the economy, foreign relationships, our rights and civil liberties, and we will conclude with talking a little bit about his approval rating. But before that, we are going to jump into our quick hits of the week, starting with the Republican-backed budget bill. So Trump's, what he has called Big Beautiful Bill, has passed the House. But although he is calling this a big, beautiful bill, I refer to this as a disastrous reverse Robin Hood bill that takes money and resources and programs that some of the poorest, most at-risk Americans need and slashes funding for that, while simultaneously giving massive tax cuts to the richest amongst us. So to break this down further, this budget bill includes $3.8 trillion in tax cuts, which includes an extension to the 27 Trump tax cuts. So these tax cuts have only added to the deficit. It's already been researched because, once again, these happened in 2017, and they have also exploded and helped contribute to the massive wealth inequality we are experiencing in the United States. This specific proposal will raise the nation's debt limit by $4 trillion. And it will also add billions to the already bloated defense budget as well. Remember, guys, the Pentagon still cannot account for billions of our taxpayer dollars as they continue to fail their audits year after year after year. Now, there are also going to be cuts to SNAP benefits and Medicaid to the tune of $1 trillion. So once again, guys, to summarize, people who are already struggling will feel the impacts and pain from this bill the most. I don't know about you guys, but as a progressive, and even if you're not a progressive or don't yet identify yourself as a progressive, maybe you're new into politics, I want my tax dollars to go to things like SNAP benefits and Medicaid. I want my tax dollars going to people in need, not up to the top. It has been well researched, guys. That trickle-down economic theory that the Republicans have pushed, it does not work. All it did, the tax cuts for the rich exploded wealth inequality, and it's one of the reasons that, working class Americans are severely underpaid for the work that they do. I do not want my tax dollars going to endless corporate bailouts or, different government handouts and subsidies to help, boost up these multi-million and sometimes billion-dollar companies. Now, this bill is now going to the Senate, where Democrats have already spoken out against this, and even some Republicans have expressed concern over the bill, including Rand Paul, who's from Kentucky, and Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. But Republicans are upset about the bill for an entirely different reason that Democrats are upset. Republicans like Rand Paul and Ron Johnson are arguing that the cuts don't go far enough, whereas Democrats are arguing that these cuts are going to hurt the people who are most vulnerable in society. So, the two parties are not the same. Do not buy that line that is propagated time and time again. Moving on to story number 2. Georgia woman has been forced to carry a fetus despite being brain dead. So this woman's name is Adriana Smith. She went to the hospital due to severe headaches, and a CT scan found blood clots in her brain. And she was only 30 years old, but she was pronounced brain dead pretty soon after those scans. So tragic story, 30-year-old passing away pretty unexpectedly. Now, she is being kept alive with ventilators right now due to Georgia's strict abortion law, since Smith was 9 weeks pregnant with her second child at the time of her hospitalization. Now, Smith's mother, April Newkirk, told a local Atlanta TV station that this has been, quote, torture, seeing her child not actually there while being hooked up to all the machinery and the ventilators. Mom is most frustrated, from what I've read, at the fact that the decision is not in their hands. So whether or not, they wanted to choose to keep her alive or not, the frustration comes from they have no say in any of this that's happening with their daughter. So just take a step back before I break down this abortion law further. But imagine, I know many of you listening are parents, whether you're parents of a newborn or parents of someone who may be in their 30s or 40s. Imagine not having any say over the medical decisions of their life once they are brain dead. That is just, I cannot imagine the situation that family is in. Now, this Georgia abortion law is called the Life Act. It went into effect in 2022 after Roe v. Wade was overturned. So some of us who live in maybe blue states who aren't feeling the impact as much of the overturning of Roe v. Wade understand women and people who are able to give birth in many red states are suffering tremendously from this. And this is just another story. In Georgia specifically, abortions in the state are illegal after cardiac activity can be detected, which is only usually around 6 weeks. So a lot of people who can give birth may not even know they're pregnant yet by that time. Now, there are some exceptions, but they're very extreme. They're only for like rape or incest or to protect the mother's life. But because Adriana Smith is already brain dead, that is where we have some like conflict here. The restrictions of our rights, particularly the rights of women under this administration, is horrifying. As I said not a minute ago, this decision should be left to the parent, the doctor, and the family. And the fact that this woman is being kept alive with ventilators and that choice is not being left in the hands of the family is just flat out disgusting. There should be no government interference in that decision. And furthermore, the party who would tout this, they do not care at all what happens to that child once it is birthed, right? It is, I've seen this on social media. I agree with this fully. Republicans are more pro-birth. They're not pro-life, because if you just want a child birthed into the world, but you don't care about their access to food, you don't care about their education, you don't care about their home life, you don't care if the family has enough to support, like you don't care about any of that. You just care about birthing someone into the world. You're not pro-life. You're not pro-children. So my question is just what happens to this child, assuming it's even born alive, because that is an entire situation now. But what is the purpose of this exactly? This is really disgusting. For me, this whole abortion conversation is really about controlling women. It has nothing really to do about children. It's about controlling women and their bodily autonomy to choose what they want to do. Now, I want to leave this story with the final thoughts from the mom who said, every day that goes by, it's more cost, more trauma, and more questions. So that is a devastating story, but that is the reality of what is happening across this country, particularly in certain red states. Story number 3. 2 Israeli embassy aides were killed in a DC shooting earlier this week. Sarah Milgram, 26, and Yaron Lachinsky, 30, were gunned down after leaving a young diplomats event in the nation's capital. Now, according to investigators, the shooter followed the individuals for a period of time, pulled out a gun from his waistband, and fired several shots at the 2 victims prior to then trying to enter the museum. Now, when being apprehended, the gunman shouted "Free Palestine" multiple times, and the suspect last checked, or what I last read, he has been charged with first-degree murder, the murder of foreign officials, and some additional charges in the fatal shooting. Now, in general, guys, I don't like sharing the name of violent offenders. I think that could contribute to perpetuating them as heroes, and I'm not pro-violence. As tragic as this shooting is, and I'm as much as I disagree with the use of violence, like I just said, and you guys can check me on that. I felt the same way about the healthcare CEO murder. I just am not pro-violence. It does not detract. So this shooting does not detract from the fact that we are witnessing a genocide in amongst the Palestinian people and in Gaza. On behalf of Israel and specifically Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, that is not, guys, the people of Israel. Okay, that is different. Just like when America does acts, abhorrent acts in our history, you blame the people who enact those acts up top, not the random American citizen who's just working to feed their family. But Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. We have a genocide happening, and this shooting does not detract from that. Okay, just like the murder of the healthcare CEO, which once again I disagreed with, does not detract from the fact that we have, if not the most broken healthcare system in the world, one of the most broken healthcare systems in the world. The problem is still the problem. Moving on to story number 4, the Trump administration has officially accepted the jet from Qatar. On a recent trip to the Middle East, Trump has made it clear that he was planning on taking a gift in the form of a 747 plane, calling anyone who would not accept the gift stupid.
I could be a stupid person to say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too.
Now, in response to this decision to accept the jet, Trump has faced significant backlash, obviously from Democrats, but also from Republicans as well. A number of GOP senators said that they do not think that this plane is a good idea. It's going to take a lot of time and cost a lot of money to hit the specifications necessary for this aircraft to actually become Air Force One. So it needs to be safe to fly, obviously, while also carrying people who are discussing important U.S. secrets. So this plane cannot just be accepted and then Trump is on it and it's ready to go. Now, at the time of this recording, Air Force has already been tasked with upgrading the plane to be used as the new plane for Trump. So once again, more great taxpayer money at use. Now, there's ethical concerns all over the place with this. I mean, ethical concerns follow Trump everywhere he goes, from bribery to issues with foreign affairs. A few Republicans did come out for support for Trump with this decision, like Tommy Tuberville from Alabama, who's just one of the most clueless politicians we have in elected office. You can Google some of the things he has said for yourself, like saying the Pentagon should be turned into a triagon instead of a triangle. Feel free to Google that for yourself. But this is not some huge, by the way, art of the deal situation, because Qatar has struggled actually to get rid of this plane since 2020. Just no one was foolish enough to take it from them. They are transforming their aircrafts to more up-to-date, sleeker aircrafts, and this $400 million catastrophe was just on their hands and no one would take it. So it's really just a way to pawn it off on the United States and on a man who will jump at any shiny object that is put in front of him, who thinks it would somehow make him look richer or make him look good in the eyes of people. And stroke his ego, of course. So that kind of summarized that plane story. Now we're going to move on to the fifth and final story, which is the health of former President Joe Biden, who is diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. So this was revealed in a statement on Sunday, the 18th. He is currently revealing treatment options, and as, of course, the former president, he will surely get the best level of care, much better care than me or you would probably receive. Now, what is being reported is that it's hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management, according to medical professionals. And if you are listening, you have likely had someone that you love, either in your family, friends, your community, touched by cancer, or someone hit by cancer in your family. And I just hope we continue to fund scientific research for cancer. This administration that we currently have is cutting a lot of scientific research, including cancer research, that would just help the lives of so many families. So ultimately, I do hope we get to a place where we invest in science, education, so that we can cure this disease that impacts so many. So best wishes do go out to Biden and the Biden family as a whole. So that wraps up the quick hits of the week. Now we're going to jump ahead to unpacking Trump's first 100 days in office. Before we jump into Trump's specific first 100 days, I want to talk a little bit about the historical context of the first 100 days quickly, for those of you who may not have known. So the idea of these first 100 days of a presidency really gained popularity after FDR's presidency in the 1930s and his New Deal. So he took over after the Great Depression, and a lot of his policies were aimed at providing relief and recovery following the Great Depression. So from his presidency came things like the Social Security Act, one of the most popular, best pieces of legislation that we have still to this day in the United States. The National Labor Relations Act, the Banking Act of 1935, the Works Progress Administration also came out of FDR. Really, his administration was one of the times in American history where policies were aimed at benefiting the working class, which just seems foreign now that legislation would actually benefit me and you. We know that the game is rigged for the rich under our current system, under our current administration, and under our current government infrastructure. Now, in terms of Trump's second first 100 days. He was sworn in for a second time on January 20th, 2025. So April 29th has marked the 100th day of his second term. Now, his second 100 days, honestly quite similar to his first 100 days, have been marred with endless executive orders. We have controversy, chaos, and historically low approval ratings again. Now, we are going to jump into these first few months, starting with a look at immigration. So one of Trump's major campaign promises was around reforming immigration, but mostly around mass deportation, right? He called for the biggest deportations in history. And I want you guys to remember this as important historical context. There was an immigration reform bill, which was Republican led. It was far more extreme than I approved of, but it was proposed during the Biden administration, but it was voted down, and it would have addressed a lot of immigration concerns. But it was because Trump did not want to give the Democrats a political victory in his eyes. Now, some of you may think that's strategically smart, but what I want from my political leaders is to solve the problems. I hate when we are sacrificed and, the average person is sacrificed for political theater and strategy. So I hated that happened. And it just made it clear that it's not actually about solving the problem. It's not actually about reforming immigration at that time, but it was rather about having a weakness to identify in their political opponent. So what does immigration reform actually look like under President Trump in these in a second term? Well, we have $1 million ad campaigns focused on instilling fear across the country, specifically amongst migrants, whether that's mugshots on the front house lawn, on the White House lawn, whether those are videos of the Venezuelan prisons, whether that are posts on the White House official Twitter page that are just crazy, but millions invested in these ad campaigns. We have a judge being arrested on courthouse grounds. We have the aiming of, or the focus, or the attempt, excuse me, to take away citizenship from children born in the United States. We have the targeting of individuals and disappearing and abducting individuals without due process, particularly individuals on college campuses who have spoken out against the genocide in Gaza. We have errors, what they called administrative errors. I think that's an understatement for these mistakes, but errors leading to people getting shipped across the country, once again, without due process, or in some cases shipped to different countries entirely without due process, as we have with Kilmore Abrego Garcia, who is still currently in an El Salvadorian prison, even though he did absolutely nothing wrong. And the Trump administration already admitted that they did something wrong. And judges have already said that they need to facilitate his return back to the United States. So this approach to immigration is all about consolidation of power through the inappropriate use of said power. So, for instance, enacting the Aliens Enemy Act, which has allowed for a lot of these deportations to happen outside of wartime. The only other time the Alien Enemies Act has been enacted has been during times of war. Last time I checked, the United States is not involved in World War III. And guys, this is just part of the movement towards authoritarianism. And I want to reiterate, I have said this from the beginning, if you've been following me, this deportation campaign was never just about the violent criminals. I know some of you listening who are kind-hearted but happen to vote Republican may have followed that lie. That was never the situation. It was never just about what he calls the rapists, the drug dealers, the gang members, or whatever lie they were trying to perpetuate at the given time. One of the reasons it was basic to know that was a lie is the numbers they were talking about. There are not that many immigrant criminals that equate to the numbers of deportations they wanted to do. Remember, guys, immigrants are far less likely to commit crime than natural American-born citizens. The data is very clear on that, and it's not even close. I think the number was 60% less likely. So we're not even talking about remotely close. That is why I have hated the conflating of criminals and immigrants and immigration together. It has been a really deceitful, disgusting tactic by this administration. And recently, if you guys have not seen, they have let in a group of, I think it was 50 some odd white South African migrants under the guise of some white genocide happening against specifically white farmers in South Africa, which most farmers in South Africa are African American, or are black, excuse me, not African American, because they're South Africa, so black. But they are getting killed at higher rates, or there are more black farmers being killed, excuse me, than white farmers, yet there seems to be no concern for bringing in the black farmers, only the white farmers. So we had Trump, the president of the United States, spewing white supremacist talking points to the leader of South Africa in the White House. That's what we have, this fear-based, color-based, race-based immigration policy that this administration is currently enacting. And guys, I want you to understand, Trump and his family have a history of racism. His family, his dad would not rent out to minorities in his building. Trump said that a group of black men who were proven innocent should still go to jail. I think he may have even said, I want to fact check this, I'll put it up on the screen, that they should still get the death penalty even though they were innocent because they probably did something anyway. Remember the good people on both sides. This is all, guys, steeped in deep racism. That's what it's steeped in. Now, moving ahead to a, I guess, positive that some people would say is that border crossings are at the lowest they have been in decades. But ultimately, guys, what they're doing is not sustainable. And it's not a full view picture of immigration reform. And furthermore, guys, you do want a certain stream of people coming into the country. You don't want to have zero immigration. That is not sustainable. That does not make sense for the future of our country in general, particularly when people are having kids at a lower rate inside of our borders, because it is ridiculously expensive to own a home, to provide childcare. Your job may not even have leave, or you may not even have appropriate health coverage to go through a pregnancy and then have health coverage for your child afterwards, right? There are all of these problems. So you need immigration. We guys in the United States don't really have an immigration problem in the violent sense that it is perpetrated. We have more of a documentation problem, where I do agree we have people coming in and we don't know much about them, but that's because we don't document correctly. Meaning, if you could do things like hire more immigration judges who could process people at a quicker rate, that would be more of the route I would go. That would be more of the route of the progressive position, is hiring more immigration judges, not this hateful approach to any migrant in the country who is non-white. And this basically is immigration policy will be continued. There have been legality concern after legality concern after legality concern. So this will not only continue to push the bounds of ethics and basic human morality of how you want to treat other human beings, but it's also going to come down to the courts to stand up to some of the legislation that this administration is trying to pass. For instance, the birthright citizenship, which I believe is now heading to the Supreme Court. Now, we are going to move on to another huge pillar that Trump won on, and I would argue even more than immigration, this is probably why he won, and it's the economy. People, I think, overwhelmingly voted for Trump in 2024 for a few reasons, but one of the main reasons was because they thought he could fix the economy. And people's perception of Harris a lot was it was just going to be a continuation of Biden, and people were already frustrated with the state of the current economy. Now, remember, one of the things he really talked about was like the price of groceries and how it was such a magical word.
I went on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word. The groceries, when you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
This guy is always just such a wordsmith, just like a really, really stable genius, right? Now, lowering prices immediately is what Trump promised, but did we get that? No. Tariffs have led to increased prices. Eggs, chicken, bacon, beef, bread, and many other items have increased since last year. Now, gas prices have remained at Biden-era levels, so that hasn't really lowered either. Now, airfare prices have fallen, but reports are basically saying this is due to people scaling back on non-essential spending to save money for tariffs, the increased price from tariffs, and paying for just, necessities now. And a growing number of people are also not trusting air travel. Now, the home price affordability index has shown improvement, so that is great, but it still remains below pre-pandemic lows or pre-pandemic levels. And there still remains a huge shortage in the housing market. So what's happening, guys, a lot in the housing market, and many of you who may be looking to buy, are noticing a lot of people are coming with cash offers. So big companies or very rich individuals are buying up real estate. So that's driving up the prices. So by increasing the amount of quantity of homes, it would lower the prices. But we still have a scarcity of homes available for families as well. Now, tariffs, along with a lack of consumer confidence, have also led to volatility in the stock market, and therefore retirement accounts have been depleted. They have bounced back a little bit, but they're still not where they were when Biden was in office. Now, there are also, in terms of the economy, there have been pump and dump crypto schemes run amok under this administration, including a recent $148 million meme coin dinner. And recession odds under Trump in just these first 100 days have reached as high as 60%. So have childcare prices gone down? No. Have the prices of groceries gone down? No. Have houses generally become more affordable for average people? No. Have gas prices gone down? No. And remember, guys, he promised to do this immediately. Now, usually presidents do not have such an immediate impact on the economy, but with what Trump is doing with this crazy tariff nonsense and the fact it can be done executively, he has slapped that reality in the face, or spat in the reality of the president's control on the economy. So this is the Trump economy, guys. What we are seeing, the results of the tariffs lie on Trump's shoulder because, once again, it's executive orders, or the power to enact tariffs lies exclusively with the executive branch. He doesn't have to go through Congress to enact his tariff policy. Now, one thing that's really hurting the economy right now is consumer confidence. So people are not feeling that there's any relief in sight. They are not believing in what they are seeing from this administration and the policies they're enacting. And when people have low consumer confidence, they spend less money, and that stagnates the economy. So people like Janine Pirro, who is on Fox News, she is a Republican talking head, have basically now needed to lean into vibes and feelings and beliefs rather than what is happening directly in front of their eyes, or what some people would call the reality of the situation.
And you know what? I don't really care about my 401k today. You know what? Not that I can afford it, not that it isn't important, not that I'm not at a point in my life when I should be worried about my 401k, because I am. But this is what I believe. I believe in this man.
So no facts, no information, no actual logic, just I believe. Guys, that is cult-like behavior. I don't know what else to tell you. If your political leaders aren't doing what they're saying and they're not providing logical reasons to solve some of our problems, you shouldn't just say, well, I just shucks believe in them. No. There needs to be a level of accountability when they're not following through and providing a better life for the American citizen. That's what you should do as a journalist. Now, this administration, at the end of the day, like I said with immigration, it's about the consolidation of power and shifting money to the rich. I do not expect any legislation to come down in this next, 3+ years that actually addresses the economic strains that we are facing as every average day Americans. Now, I will come out here, obviously, and give credit when credit is due if that changes, but I just don't see that happening. The only, caveat to that would be is if people are so frustrated and so upset that they have to pass something just so like a civil war doesn't break out. That would be the only situation I see like comprehensive, let's say, child care legislation passing, or maybe raising the minimum wage. Otherwise, I don't see any of that being addressed under this current administration, just based on what I have observed. Now, moving on to the next category, which is going to be foreign policy. And my opinion is, out of all the chaos and disastrous moments we have faced under these first 100 days, you could argue none have been worse from not only an embarrassment standpoint, but from a long-term diplomatic relationship standpoint than Trump's handling of foreign policy. Even though he bragged about, for instance, his ability to end international conflicts and war right away when he got into office. He has started conflicts with various countries, including Canada, who he's talked about turning it into a 51st state. Now, Canada, in response, this backfired tremendously. They elected a left-leaning anti-Trump person to lead their country now in response to a lot of Trump's rhetoric over his first 100 days in office. He also has talked about annexing Greenland. He has talked about like taking the Panama Canal back. So all kind of foreign policy conflict. He also talked about turning the Gaza Strip into like a luxury resort. So just, having a party on top of the ashes of, I guess, dead children, and mothers and people from all, different ages and backgrounds there. So I guess that's what we want. We have also shifted our allegiance away from our traditional allies, over to more authoritarian regimes like Russia. I would argue one of the most embarrassing moments was that White House interaction that you guys can see on your screen with Zelensky. When the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, said, "Did you even say thank you?" reminded me of my early work in my career with elementary age school children. But guys, it's not appropriate for the situation. We are talking about a war-torn country and the leader of that country coming to the United States. We are not borrowing someone's toys during recess time. I found that statement, "Did you even say thank you?" one of the just most embarrassing things, honestly. Like, it was just cringeworthy. Now, as we speak, guys, under Trump, because remember, he is the one who talked about there's no wars under Trump. He talked about being able to solve these conflicts. So once again, we are holding him accountable to what he said, not making these things up. Israel obviously is moving in further in Gaza. It is still murdering innocent women and children. There seems to be no end in sight, other than the end goal seems to be mass extermination of the Palestinian people. He is also cutting, in terms of foreign policy, he is also cutting humanitarian aid. He is cutting funds to the UN and NATO. He is eliminating money for peacekeeping. He has pulled out of the World Health Organization. So what that means, guys, while 193 other countries who are part of the World Health Organization are, for instance, coming up with a strategy to address the next pandemic that may happen, the United States will not participate in that. So the country with the most resources in the world will not contribute to helping solve worldwide health concerns. Ultimately, guys, to summarize Trump's foreign policy, he has no diplomatic tact whatsoever. He does not value the importance of diplomatic relationships, and maybe that would work pre-internet, or not even pre-internet, like I don't know, in like the 1800s. But guys, we rely on other countries. Every country basically relies on other countries because one country does not have the ability, for instance, to grow everything they need within its borders. So he just lacks so much ability to understand that. He is an old man who does not understand the world in 2025. That's what I would kind of summarize it as. Now, one of my biggest concerns, and why I think actually foreign policy is the biggest issue, is some of these relationships may get to the point over the next few years where they are beyond repair. And then countries are looking to other countries to form relationships. And what that does is that's going to hurt the American economy, and it would push us down in the world ranking versus a lot of other countries in the world. Also, guys, cutting things like humanitarian aid and food to feed starving children also can lead to hatred towards our country, which there is already a ton of hatred out there, and hatred can fuel terrorist activity. And that is a huge fear I also have. I don't hear that talked about too often, but the more the world hates you, the more it opens up that possibility. And that is a huge, huge concern I also have based on the lack of popularity now of the United States worldwide. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about rights and civil liberties, just because this has been under attack since Inauguration Day. So Trump has basically aimed to roll back diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. I'm always going to try the best to say what DEI stands for, because he is against diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay? He has attacked birthright citizenship, as I mentioned earlier, in immigration. He has stripped the rights of those in the LGBTQ plus community, and he has worked to dismantle things like the Department of Education. We have also, under this administration, we have fallen to 55th in the World Press Freedom Index. Now, to be clear, we weren't killing it before this administration because we were 45th before then. But to drop 10 spots in just from where we were in the previous year is a pretty significant drop in that short of a time. And we are supposed to be, right, land of the free, but we're 55th in World Press Freedom. And guys, as someone with a journalism background, and I hope even those listening who don't have a journalism background, you understand this. Freedom of the press is one of the most critical foundations to a strong democracy, because what real journalism should be, which we don't see this really in mainstream media much anymore, but it's to hold our elected officials accountable. It's to be the watchdogs for those in power. So if we don't have freedom of press, it lowers the ability to hold our elected officials and those in power accountable. So it is incredibly troubling that we are 55th in the World Press Freedom Index. There's also been attacks kind of to go with this on free speech, right? Trump has called certain news organizations illegal just because they criticize him, not because they're saying anything wrong, but just because they don't bow down to him. He's trying to end funding for media organizations like PBS, and this administration has jailed people for using their freedom of speech to just write things like op-eds, like we've seen with college students on campus. This administration is also targeting worker protection. So we see firings at the federal level, unconstitutional firings where people had to be rehired immediately. This administration is also making it harder for people to unionize. And any of you who are average Americans who are against unions, people who are in unions get higher wages, higher benefits. It is beneficial to be in a union. It is not harmful to be in a union. This administration is also eliminating regulations. And guys, regulations are just a rule for laws that aim to protect workers. So business owners and the rich hate regulations because it usually costs them more money, for instance, to provide certain safety features. So regulations are good for average workers, but this administration is also cutting those. So where has all of this led us, right? The land of the free, right, has been added to the global human rights watch list over our declining civil liberties. So one of the things that I hear all of the time is this is the best country in the world due to our freedoms. A bunch of other countries have freedom. Most of the developed countries in the world, particularly those in Europe, Western Europe, have freedom as you and I would think about it, okay? We have declining civil liberties here. We do not have more freedom than Switzerland, Sweden, other countries that just have free elections. So this idea that America is now better than everyone because of our freedom is not true. I've already discussed the freedom of the press, and now we are added once again to the global human rights watch list. This has also led, guys, to legal battle after legal battle, because when this administration continues to just defy constitutional rights and laws, they get sued time and time again. So this is a waste of time. It is a waste of money. It is a waste of resources. Whereas none of the actual issues that we have as average Americans are being addressed. And one of the crazy things about this whole thing is they create Doge to cut spending, and this administration has actually spent more than any other administration in its first 100 days in modern history. So they are actually blowing through more of our tax money than previous administrations, even though they tout these cuts that they did not successfully make. All right, last but not least, we are going to talk about approval rating, because you can take my opinion for it. You can sense that this has been pretty much a disaster under these first 100 days. But if you don't want to take my word for it, we can look at polling as a whole to see where the American public is landing on how these first 100 days have gone. So you can say that the public agrees that this presidency has been one of the biggest failures so far in modern American history. The people are noticing. So his current approval rating is hovering right around 40%, give or take a few percentage points. This is lower than past presidents at similar points in their term, other than basically Trump in his first term. And remember, he got smoked by Biden pretty significantly, particularly when you look at the popular vote as a result to his first term. And guys, Biden was not a popular, exciting candidate. So it's not like Trump lost to this new, bright, up-and-coming politician that like anyone would have lost to. He lost to Joe Biden, who, even though, for instance, I voted for him, a lot of people did, there wasn't a big contingency who was excited for Biden. It was more a vote against the authoritarian rule, regime, and fascism that would take place under Trump. And I think we're seeing that come to reality now. Now, in terms of specific policies that people voice their opinions on, people voted nothing about what they liked most about the first 100 days. And they also showed that how Trump governed was what people liked the least. So they don't like anything the most, and they don't like generally how he's doing his job as a whole, how he's leading, how he's governing the least. That's not good. That is not where you want to be 100 days into your term as president of the United States. Now, less than 40% of the population believes that the economy, will be better, which is not good for consumer confidence and our economic outlook. If you want to go to a grade, so kind of jumping into school and assigning a letter grade to this, the American public has spoken out overwhelmingly, stating that Trump is failing so far in his first 100 days. 45% of the public gave him a grade of F, with the public citing specifically the following factors of concern. The handling of the Kilmer Abrego Garcia deportation. The public overwhelmingly believes that the president should be following the court orders, facilitating his return. Moving too quickly with his policies. So his kind of disorganized, chaotic approach, people are not vibing with that overwhelmingly. People also think Trump is putting the country on the wrong path. And a growing number of people are actually stating that the policies are directly negatively impacting them. So whether that may be being they got laid off from their job as a federal employee, maybe they're a farmer struggling to find workers, maybe they're a scientist trying to conduct research and funding has been cut, all these different things, there are more policies that are actually impacting people and they're feeling that. And then another big thing that people are citing is the tariffs, stating that they're hurting the economy. And the biggest part is that Trump is responsible. So they're not just saying that, it's Biden's fault, as Trump is claiming, even though he's not in power anymore. People are lying, are putting the economy at the feet of Donald Trump. So approval rating in these first 100 days, not looking good whatsoever. And it's pretty evident that Trump needs to change course if Republicans hope to stay in power at the midterms and hope to win the presidency in 2028. But my prediction here, guys, ultimately is he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the Republican brand or the Republican Party. I don't think he's going to care at all what happens to Republicans once he can no longer be elected into office and he can no longer have that power. In fact, I would argue it would be a little bit of an ego boost for him for the Republican Party to fall apart after he's no longer president, because then he can say, look, see, you guys needed me and this party was nothing without me. So I don't think he's going to, pass off this party and leave it in good hands whatsoever, which I think leads a huge opening for Democrats. Now, does the Democratic Party capitalize on that? That is yet to be seen. Their incompetence strikes me as right now, no. But 3 years or even like a few months, guys, in politics can change a lot. So we can see. But ultimately, for the rest of these few years under Trump, I envision more of the same. And what do I mean by that? I mean endless lying. I mean attacking reporters, political opponents, random celebrities he doesn't like, deranged tweets and true social posts, random ramblings at speeches and events. And ultimately, the thing that kind of hurts us most is putting the rich first and the elites first above the rest of us in society, because he does not fundamentally, guys, care about us. I hope if you're listening to this and you still think Trump cares about you or me or the average American, you need to follow his actions, not the random quote he will say that makes it seem like he cares. What policies is he passing? What is he actually doing legislatively? What pressure is he putting on Congress to actually pass things that will help? That should always be the focus. Now, going to end on a little positive before I do another positive with the story of the week. This does, as a progressive, as someone who's left-leaning, this does open the door for a progressive candidate to run and have a chance of winning in 2028. Unfortunately, the Bernie Sanders window, I believe, is past. Even though he is still kicking and seems perfectly good, he is too old. That time has passed. But usually what happens is the amount of damage that a president does, like the worse the presidency is, the more the pendulum will swing in the other direction. So it could be interesting to see which candidates kind of emerge as we get closer to 2028. Now, with that positive spin on a potential progressive candidate in 2028, I want to also finish positively with a shout out of the week. And this goes to a co-owner and manager of Zach's Finest Deli and Grocery in Staten Island, New York, who has rewarded, I believe, multiple students for hard work in their neighborhood. But I want to play one specific clip that I came across here in social media that really touched my heart here.
Yo, I told you I'd get honor roll.
No way, you did it?
Yeah.
No way, let me see, man.
Look at this.
He did it. He did it. Okay, Zamir, go grab whatever you want.
All right.
He's a really smart kid, and his actions is so innocent. He came and showed me his grades the first time, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me see if he's gonna keep going, and I would just want to encourage him.
I've been seeing a lot of kids get honor roll and stuff, and like I was like, I want to get honor roll, but then I get merit roll, and I'm like, I don't want merit roll, I want honor roll. So I kept trying, and until the final 90 average, and I got honor roll. And I was so excited and happy. And I was like, all this hard work is paid off.
So one of the things, guys, that is true is school is a grind, right? It is a daily effort to keep grades up. You got assignments, you got homework, right? You got readings. So school for some kids is easy, but for many kids, it's a grind to put in that day in, day out work to achieve at that level and to reach honor roll. So celebrating victories like this within the community is a beautiful, 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 beautiful thing. Schools often try their best to celebrate moments like this within the walls of classrooms or in auditoriums and things like that. But it, I think, carries even more weight when that celebration goes out into the community. So I just like seeing more positivity in the world like this, more community, and just more caring about each other. Even if that means you don't know certain people too well, maybe they're not your family or your closest friends, but you just care because they're people. So I just wanted to end with this beautiful clip. I will be back, guys, on Wednesday, where I will be doing my midweek mailbag. So if you have any last minute questions, I've already kind of written up the show, but I can fit in some last minute questions. If you have any, please email at tjacksunpacks@gmail.com. So until next time, see ya. Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.